Welcome to the Single Barrel Sports Podcast, episode 47. Scott, I'm back and I'm ready to talk. My name's Deeb.
My name is Scott.
Let's do this.
Pat McAfee said today we got our guy.
How many sixth graders would it take to beat LeBron James in a game? Ready for the ultimate sleepers?
Shedeur Sanders went number 144 in the draft. Well, you heard it here. The man Deeb is back. We got a lot to unpack. I'm not going to keep talking in rhymes tonight, but we are going to be talking a lot about sports. And Deeb, welcome back. I know that it's been a heavy travel season for you. You've had a whole lot of things going on. You were in Vegas last week. Pretty good reason to not be on the podcast. I certainly wish that I would have been in Vegas as well. And so let's hear about it, man. Tell me about the trip. Just talk about life. It's been a couple of weeks that have been quite busy. So even, the podcast originally started for us to kind of have an intentional way to catch up. And I think we're due for that, really. We haven't had as much conversation these past couple of weeks with all the busy and hectic nature of our lives. So to you, my friend, tell me about your trip. I'm really curious to hear about Vegas.
Yeah, well, before I address Vegas, I have to say happy 1 year anniversary. I know that last week was actually the 1 year anniversary for the podcast, which is kind of crazy. I don't know, kind of honestly, I feel like came up so quickly that you had sent me like a video, of our very first recording and all this stuff. So I have to give the shout out to that just because I know we're there. We made it past the 1 year. So we're going to keep on trudging through here and keep on conquering the episodes. But no, everything in Vegas was really good. So I actually went, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I'll explain a little bit of the context. So my wife was actually going for a conference. So I was not technically there for work, but I did go to something there for work while I was there because there happened to be a dinner on one of the nights that was work related. And so I just agreed that I would go because I was like, well, I'm going to be here anyway, so why not? So I actually went more so just to be there. So I, worked from the hotel during the day, obviously with the time change a little bit different. And then during the evenings was able to go out and just kind of walk around, enjoy, gamble, talk to some people. And she had like a whole bunch of people from work that were with her as well. And one of the girls' husbands was there too. So him and I were kind of gambling buddies. So we got to play craps together and we had a really fun time. I think one of the highlights for sure was one of the nights we were in New York. We were playing craps and I was actually just watching. I had decided to just I'll watch for a minute and kind of see what the vibe is and see if it makes sense to get in or not. But so he was playing and man, I wish I would have gotten in, but I also feel like I would have almost been like a bad luck or one of those weird omens. Because he actually ended up doing really well. I think he won like $500 that night. He played,
nice. Okay.
Yeah, and he played for probably 2 hours or something. It was a pretty long stint, but we were next to this Hawaiian guy. Okay, so this random Hawaiian guy walked up, and when he walked up, I mean, I couldn't tell if this guy was in the mob or he was going to kill us. Like, I'm telling you, it was just a very interesting character, and he just had such a mysterious personality. Like I don't know. I was kind of trying to feel it out as the spectator, but dude, this guy was electric. Like he was one of those like good luck charms or something, I swear, because everybody around him was rolling so well and they rolled like forever around, specifically on the side of the table that we were on. And he just like had all these random phrases. Like when he wanted the number to hit on the roll, he would be like, woof them down. Like he would like yell it when someone would roll. Dude, I'm serious. I was literally dying. I was like, oh my God, I'm like watching a movie right now.
Bro, those are the best tables when everyone starts to get a little bit animated, a little energetic. And here's the thing, when it comes to craps, call me a villain if you want. There are times where I play the don't pass line because the odds are just like a tiny bit better. So it's like, well, if I'm going to spend my money, I might as well take the best bet. Best bet in the casino, by the way. However, nothing beats when the whole table is rallying and trying to win. It's like, okay, well, I am not going to be the guy that plays against all of this energy. I'm going to join right in. And I love it when people just get electric like that. You're all winning together. Everyone starts like high-fiving and yelling, and like the whole casino kind of starts looking at you because they're like, well, what's going on over there? Best vibes ever, man. And On those nights, if you can play for a long period of time in that environment and come out even, that's a win. Coming out $500 up is huge. So I know who you're talking about, and kudos to him. That's a hell of a night.
Yeah, so that was super fun. Yeah, and it was one of those like animated tables, just a really good time, kind of even for me just to spectate. I was just having fun watching. I didn't even feel the need to play. I was just like, I kind of wish I was playing because I might be winning, but I was like, this is also fun to just watch. But so that was super fun. And I mean, yeah, we just kind of honestly explored different places. We checked out some new like casinos. We went to Old Vegas, which I had never been to. That was really cool to see that for the very first time. And then randomly, so my brother was actually there, and he was there for the conference. It's not the brother from Florida that you're thinking of. But my other brother, who's a pharmacist, was also there. So then we ended up meeting up with him and a guy that I used to work with a long time ago at a hospital when I was a student. And so that was super fun because we got to gamble with them. And so we were playing craps at it was like a $10 table that we found in Old Vegas. So that was a ton of fun.
Vegas is awesome. It's like a whole different experience there.
Yeah, one of the places we walked into was they had, speaking of sports, probably like quite literally the greatest sports watching experience area I've ever seen. I mean, I honestly, I'd have to look up what the spot is. I think it might have been like it's not Circa, it's not the Golden Nugget. It's one of the ones down there, but I'm telling you, like they had recliners like you're at the movies that you could sit in, and it was like a whole seating arrangement, and then there was just gigantic TVs and like a million of them in their sports book.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
I was like, if I wanted to watch sports, now I know where to come back because this is like a experience back here.
Listen, man, if I see that, you can find my ass parked in that recliner for the whole night.
Yeah, ordering drinks, probably trying to get some popcorn or something. That'd be
you got to. Oh yeah.
That'd be an experience. But yeah, no, the trip was really good. Ended up coming home last week, later in the week, and then honestly, we went back to my buddy Kyle's for a Christmas party this weekend. So we were back at our parents' house Saturday night, which was really fun as well. So kind of just been going. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of relaxation with the holidays coming up.
I bet, man. I bet. I know it's been very, very, very busy these last couple of months for you.
Yeah.
We've been
all
busy
good stuff though.
Right.
Yeah, all good stuff. Can't complain.
Sounds like a blast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had kind of more of the same. I had a great energy last week when we did the podcast with our guests, with Drew, Jordan, and Zach, and things were good. And then Wednesday, I woke up not really feeling good again. Kind of like this, it's just been a roller coaster all winter, and it's never been anything too bad, but just loads of headaches and sore throats and just kind of sinus. I don't know what the hell is going on. But really no time to dwell on that because work has been pretty busy. Despite classes being over, there's still projects I'm working on. And as you know, and I think I've talked about on here, we're selling our house and buying a new one.
Yep.
And we actually finished. We signed the paperwork last Friday to sell our house. And we were able to keep possession for a few weeks to kind of get moved out, which is perfect. A really big blessing, honestly, when you're going through the transition like this. And then the buyers signed yesterday. So our house is officially sold. I'm sitting in a space that I don't own right now. I'm just technically renting it. We just took some money off of the sale and are basically calling that our rent price for until we move out. So yeah, so that's all a go. We actually did our walkthrough. We have a new construction home that we bought. And so we did what they call like a final walkthrough. They call it like a blue tape walkthrough. I don't know if that's normal or just with our builder. But we looked at like every square inch of the house today. And if there was ever like any like scratches on the walls or like little nicks or missed caulk spots or whatever, like you just put like a piece of blue tape on it. And then the builder comes and then they just fix everything before you do we have one more walkthrough right before closing next week. So pretty excited about that. We're going to technically own the house a week from today, and then we're moving in on the 27th. So
nice.
Quick turnaround here. A lot's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, but I will have a much better setup for the podcast and for music stuff that I make and for video gaming and hosting friends and family. We're going to just have a lot more space to do a lot more fun activities.
Nice.
You can't tell with the background, thankfully, but I'm kind of like just like in a corner of a room, kind of like in a very tight little space. And I have been for a year. And I do a lot with my computer. Like I said, we stream video games and I make music and podcasts. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in this little space. So I'm very excited for my tiny space to become extremely larger and for us just to have more room for my kiddo to run around and be in a brand new neighborhood with a lot of families and a lot of young kids. So
good
stuff there, man. It's just And it's nice to be at the end because there's a lot of stress. Anyone who's moved, there's a lot of stress that goes into that. And
Yeah.
knowing that the paperwork is all signed and we're just waiting a week now for us to sign one more round of paperwork and done with that chapter of life and on to the next one.
Nice. Well, cheers to that, man. That's a no easy feat, and I know it's a stressful process in general. And hopefully, if you do decide to use a moving company, you have better luck this year.
It's going to be a little different this time around. Yeah, so that's another thing we've been doing is we are using a moving company, and they're local, and they're ranked the top moving company in Raleigh. So,
Okay.
and they have been for a couple of years. The
Yeah.
VP of the company I talked to on the phone, really cool guy, got good vibes. And he was like, well, we prefer to do in-person quotes so we can give you more accurate numbers. I can send out someone to give a quote to you. And it's actually my wife. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is like a local, like family run company. And that made me feel pretty comfortable.
Nice.
So she comes out and is just like the nicest person that I've met in a long time. And I was like, okay, vibes are high, vibes are good. And then what I like about this move is they gave us a price where like if they were to pack everything and move everything themselves, that would be the price. But it's literally like itemized. So I can see like if I pack one medium-sized box myself, I can see how much money that takes off. If I like don't need wardrobe boxes or don't need TV boxes, I can see how much that knocks off. So
nice.
Raven and I have been like strategically like figuring out what to pack that's easier for us to pack in advance that we're not going to use for a couple of weeks, but we'll also knock off the best bang for our buck on the price too. So yeah, it's been a very interesting experience this time, but when they pick it up, they're driving straight to the other house, which is like 45 minutes away. And
you're following them.
Yep. And so we will not have that experience again. I don't care if I'm like parked outside of a warehouse, like yelling at somebody, like we're going straight to my home.
Yeah. Well, that's nice too, that they give you that option. I know when we moved from the apartment to here, we did something kind of similar where we were like, let's just move all the stuff that we can, in our cars and just take a couple trips. And then we'll just have them move like the big things that are annoying, like beds and TVs and stuff where I'm like, I really don't want to do this stuff. So you can kind of like you said, pick and choose like, it makes more sense financially to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And since they price it per box, it really like we can make changes to what we want to do up until the day that they pack, which is really nice. Because if we're feeling ambitious and want to take a couple trips each day, like we can. But if we're not feeling that way, especially over the holidays, we don't have to. And like whatever's there, they'll pack it and move it, which is really cool. But I do want to kind of talk about moving, and I'll do this in the context of sports here because that's just how my brain was working going through this whole process of like when you sell a house, you get like a net sheet, and that's like how much money you get after all the costs of closing and paying off your loan and whatever. And so for me, I'm very much a numbers guy, and this is where the sports things kind of come in. There were some issues with our house that came up on the inspection, nothing like groundbreaking, but just some things that were old and aged and maybe like partially damaged. And the buyers kind of wanted us to kind of like concede a little bit of money at closing so they could get some repairs done before they move in, and like kind of common things, I think, in an older home. Nothing crazy here. But moving up to that point, I hadn't really planned on giving extra money. Like I thought I had an idea of how much money we were going to receive. And so for me, like in a scoreboard situation, like I'm negative now, like I'm losing the game of home selling and buying because I'm now giving up some of the money I thought I would be receiving. But then when we actually got our final sheet for the sale, we actually got more money in proceeds than what the net sheet had estimated. And then when I looked at our cost for the closing that we needed, the cash to close that they call for our home purchase, we needed to bring less to that than I thought we did. And so then I was kind of like the scoreboard in my head, I was kind of comparing like, well, we lost this much and having to do like concessions, right? But then we gained this much because these estimates were wrong and both of them went in our favor. And so like we're actually kind of winning compared to where I thought we were. And so I'm just curious, such a weird question to ask, but like that was like sports brain in my head when it came to buying and selling a house. So Dave, have you had any like sports brained moments from the past week that you can think of?
Yeah. I have to take it back, I think, to actually I would can I take it back to last week? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
fine. I feel
that's
like
totally fine.
That's the one that comes to mind. When we were in Vegas, I think kind of the sports brain thing that I was looking for, and I think I texted you a little bit about it, was similar to what you would do, when you're betting on sports. I was trying to figure out odds when it came to some of the games and trying to like think through, well, if you're doing this like strategy or these types of bet, what are the odds? What are the best odds, the worst? So for me, that was, I think the sports brain thing was looking at the odds and then trying to figure out like, well, if I bet this much. Here's how much I could make, but if I were to do this, this is kind of what it would be. So that's what reminded me of the sports brain, especially relating it back to like sports betting.
Yeah, almost like you're like an offensive coordinator, kind of like weighing the pros and cons of a play call, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, hell yeah. Well, while you were away, another question for you. Let's warm up the sports parts of our brains here. What game or result had a result that really stuck with you in the past week or 2 weeks? Without looking anything up, just the first thing that comes to mind, and I'll give you a second, and I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, the thing that stuck with me was Indiana beat OSU, and then Mendoza won the Heisman. And I can't help but think that Mendoza probably doesn't win that Heisman if they don't win that football game. Like, I think it literally decided between him and Sayan, and Sayan didn't even finish second. I think he finished like fourth in the vote. So it was like a big impact, the outcome of that Big Ten championship game. And the crazy thing is, neither one of them had a statistically good football game. And also, the Heisman field this year had such a, in my opinion, worse statistical kind of like playbook, or I don't know what you want to call it. Their stats were not as good as recent years. And I think, again, I think that's showing the results of NIL coming into the sport, and everyone kind of having a little bit more of an even playing field with getting recruits. So upsets are happening regularly. Conferences consolidating. So we're having good teams playing good teams more often. And so you're not having these like 64-0 like ass whoopings as frequently as you used to, because there's more teams that could potentially win each year against these big powerhouse teams. Again, my mind went into a spiral just thinking about Mendoza winning that Heisman and kind of how that happened, and then kind of looking at history. And I think that what we're going to see moving forward is more of this kind of a year, and less of like, a running back putting up Barry Sanders numbers or a quarterback throwing for like 4,000 yards. Like I think those days may be behind us, because I think the nature of college football has changed. What about you? What has stuck with you over the last couple of weeks?
Well, before I get into that, one of the things that went through my mind as you talked about at the NIL and, competitiveness and all that kind of stuff was, I don't know why. I mean, maybe this is because some of this stuff's been on my mind for work, but it's almost like, in a weird way, love it or hate it. There's clearly criticisms, pros and cons to NIL, but it almost created like more of like a free market competition feel in the sports, right? So like the fact that, and obviously, yes, I know there are certain programs that have more money, more donors, etc. But like you said, programs like Indiana and some of these others that were not as either well known or had as much resources or availability to recruit, like I feel are getting more, they have that competition in the recruiting area, right? And players are able to transfer. I just feel like, I don't know, it's kind of one of those weird like economic things when I look at it, as like, did they create a free market situation or some sort of like an economic situation there where, it starts to make things a little bit more competitive. So that was one thing that came to mind when you were talking through that. But mine was,
I was just saying, in a way, I think so. We had these powerhouse schools, and we can dive into this a little bit later, talking about the Coach O interview and all that. But there was certainly some foul play going on with funding college football players and probably other athletes back in the day. And now there's no hiding it. It's just illegal. But to your point, even like the economics of it, maybe some could say economic irresponsibility, giving these college aged kids so much money. And we won't go into politics at all ever in this podcast, but someone as notable as the president of the United States said that he thinks that these universities might be ruining themselves by spending so much money on college sports with this NIL stuff. So it's clearly grabbing attention of headlines. And I think you're right. It is kind of changing the nature of college sports. But back to you.
No, I definitely think it's a different dynamic overall. Mine's not as I don't think as cerebral as yours, but this is the image this is the image in my head. Rams guy or Rams tight end or whoever it was makes a catch, great catch, clearly didn't get into the end zone on the replay. And there's like an image of it that somebody sent today in a group chat, and they review it and count it as a touchdown. And then obviously the Lions get beat and whooped for the game. But that's the image that stuck with me from this past week/weekend of sports, of like, there's just some crazy stuff going on in the NFL. And I'm like, how, and not just that, like we can go back. I know we're not going to rehash this, the Ohio State Michigan game with that touchdown, but like I've just seen some calls lately where I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This is kind of crazy.
Well, and the fascinating thing about that is that got reviewed and then they still called it a touchdown. And if you actually watch it, I mean, I've seen people on Twitter posting about this, but you could argue it wasn't even a catch. Like, if you want to say that he bobbled it and then slid into the end zone and then got possession, and that's why it's called a touchdown, which is ultimately what they did say. If you actually watch it from that lens of like, when did he regain possession? Like, there's an argument that it either hit the ground or that he was out of bounds. Like, there's arguments it maybe shouldn't have even been a catch. So yeah, it's a very bizarre play because initially it was caught clear as day, not a touchdown. And so if you're going to say because of the bobble that it became one, like, was it still a catch? And I don't think that was really a part of discussion, which is fascinating. I mean, one possession game could have, in a game of inches, it could have changed the outcome, although they probably still would have scored. But that is the sport that we watch. And like you said, we've seen some of those plays this year, and it's been a little bit bizarre.
Yeah, that's the one that I think stuck with me, where I was like, what the hell's going on here?
All right. Well, we're 22 minutes in now, which is kind of hard to believe, but really good to catch up because it has been a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Deeb, tell everyone that's listening just quickly where to find our stuff. We do a lot of stuff on social media, so I'll let you plug that really quickly here.
Yeah, singlebarrelsports.com. It's where you'll find everything, all the social media platforms, the podcast itself, YouTube, Spotify, merch store. Check some stuff out if you're interested in that. And consider hitting subscribe or follow on any of those. We appreciate that if you enjoy listening in or providing some free support.
And I will just shout out those of you on YouTube. We've seen the follows lately. We appreciate that. I think had some bots and we took a bit of a dip, and that number's come back up, and we really appreciate that. All right, Deeb. Well, in traditional fashion, I do want to talk about something kind of ambiguous that we hear a lot in sports. Oftentimes in sports, announcers will utilize terminology that a casual or maybe person that's not normally a fan of a sport maybe don't understand, and they don't go defined. And so our sports term of the week this week is something called the game script. Do you want to try and break that down?
How about you tell me about it?
Yeah, I can do that for you. So game script is funny because by just definition of words, it kind of sounds like the game is scripted and it's just talking about the script that the game has, right? But that's not actually what game script is. If you think about the word script here, it's like the game's unwritten script. And as the game goes on, this game is writing its own script for kind of how the game has been unraveling or how it's been flowing so far. And so the term game script, it really talks about like the flow of the game, heavily focused on things like whatever the current score is, any momentum that is occurring in that game, and certain situations that have kind of led up to the point that you're at right now. So oftentimes, depending on how the game script has gone, looking at, again, what the score is, what the momentum's like, any situations that have happened, it can change the way that people will call their plays or utilize their players, or maybe they're leaning on some statistics that have already happened to kind of feed the hot hand, if you will, or to try and cover the person who's been performing well. So basically how it works, Steve, is that anything preceding where you're at in the game so far is kind of dictating or setting the tone for your strategy for the rest of the game. Certainly, if someone has scored 3 touchdowns against you, that the script now is that guy's having a career day, and you're not going to want to just keep letting them score. So you might start to choose some plays that double cover that person or cover the area of the field that they're catching a lot of passes in, for example. The easiest way to understand this, I think, is that if teams are playing with a big lead, they're going to run the ball more often because they're going to want to try and run the clock out and just preserve that win. Versus if teams get behind really early, they're going to increase kind of they're trying to get more yards at a time. They're going to throw the ball more often. If they don't get a pass, it stops the clock. So they're not going to lose time and they can keep trying to catch up. And then also kind of individual player production can be kind of game script dependent. So if you've got a guy that's breaking out, has caught like 6 of the most ridiculous catches of his career and just doesn't seem to be able to drop the football, they're probably going to keep getting the ball thrown to them. Versus if you've got a guy like George Pickens who can be kind of polarizing and he doesn't look like he's running a full route or he dropped a couple passes, like you might stop throwing him the football quite as much because the game script is kind of telling you that he's not dialed in today. So the key idea with game script here, because these teams practice all week long. They have these game plans. The big takeaway here is that teams don't abandon their plans. The script of the game forces them to adjust. And so they might have a set plan for the week. And if it's not working, the game script has kind of dictated that is not going to work. It forces them to do something else, or they will guaranteed lose the football game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add to that. You're probably, I'm sure, familiar with kind of how this looks when you're watching football.
Yeah. So I actually watched a pretty interesting video, and it relates back to this, but it was, if you're familiar with Will Stein, he was the offensive coordinator for Oregon, and then he just became the head coach for Kentucky. So he actually talks about, from an offensive coordinator's perspective, their game script. Like he explained the concept, and he kind of just goes over, like, gives you some examples. But one of the interesting things that I thought he said about it in the video that I saw was, he was like, usually when I do game scripting for offense, we will specifically script out our first 10 plays of the game on offense. So like, we will have a set plan that we will practice all week, and we're going to stick to that script at least for those first 10 plays, and get to kind of, like you said, see like what's working and what's not, and how do they react to it. So I've seen it used in that sense, where some teams or some people have that philosophy. Well, they'll script out specifically like a set number of plays. Maybe it's the opening, maybe it's like for the second half, you make those adjustments. And this can happen in other sports like, basketball, hockey, etc. But that was a really interesting thing that I heard him talk about, where I was like, that does make sense. Because sometimes I feel like you see people come out in the beginning of the game and they're like, they're super either cold or hot, or it just seems weird. And you're like, whatever they're doing is not working, or whatever they're doing is destroying the other team. Like, I've seen it happen a few times, but then you just see it like even itself out a bit, because I feel like then they're adjusting. And then sometimes they're like, all right, we're going to change. We're going to move over to this. And then they end up either winning or blowing them out, or it becomes a close game.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go into some finer details here, but I'll do it quickly so we're not spending the whole episode talking about game script. But the goal with controlling the game script is because when you're controlling the game script, when you're following it well, then you can have control over the tempo and kind of dictate how your opponent plays the game of football, right? So like, if you get a 21-point lead at half, they're going to have to try and play faster football and throw the ball more in the second half. And that, so you can game plan against that with how you're calling your plays.
Yep.
You can also force teams into uncomfortable situations, right? So like, if teams have a star running back, but they're losing by a lot, they're going to have to lean on some of their not maybe biggest stars to try and get points quickly. So it puts more pressure on their wide receivers and their quarterback. And it also forces more predictable play calling, like I said, so you can kind of shut down certain things. I think it's really important to understand that also can reference a lot of other things then. So the game script can explain things like lopsided statistics, right? So maybe a bad quarterback has like a lot of passing yards or a lot of completions in a game. Jacoby Brissett, I think, broke the completions record recently. That's a lopsided stat, right? No one here thinks Jacoby Brissett is the best quarterback in the league. He's probably like damn close to the very bottom, in my opinion, for starters. But they were getting their ass whooped. So he had to throw the ball every play because they were trying to catch up and stay in the game. So game script explains why he threw the ball that many times. It's not like they planned to come in and just throw the ball, 60 times. But they were getting smoked and they wanted to try and stay competitive. It also helps you to understand when a good player might not have quite as many statistics. Like, let's say a quarterback didn't perform as well as normal. It helps to explain why that happened, right? So like, if Josh Allen and the Bills are winning like 35-0 in the third quarter, Josh will not be throwing the football anymore. They're going to be, running the football. And so he's not going to have as much volume or number of attempts of passes. Yeah. And it also helps to then it kind of justify some things that happen with like betting or gambling or fantasy football as well. So I think it helps to make sense of things and to understand the actual flow of the game of football more. But it does create some ambiguity because, like, is game script a cause or an effect, for example? Like, is Dak Prescott actually an elite quarterback, or is it because his defense is so bad that he has to throw the football for 4 quarters every game the entire season long?
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't personally think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, but some seasons his stats sure do look like he is. Right. But he also has a bad defense. He has to throw the ball all game, and he has star wide receivers.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the other question that comes up is, like, can teams actually control the flow of the game script, or is this narrative just kind of a hindsight situation to try and make sense of things that have already happened? And Deeb, just for you, I know you're a big history guy when it comes to terms, so I found the origin of this. This actually is pretty fresh. This kind of started in people who do analytics kind of funded this terminology to try and make sense of things for fantasy football communities. And the term game script started to become popular in the 2010s. Really within like the last 10 to 15 years, we've been seeing this used more often. And I think it's because people are trying to make sense of bad or abnormally good performances to the casual fan experience who is involved in fantasy football, which is hugely popular.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the concept has probably been around for a while, but the term itself makes sense that it was more, like more recent. It probably just either had a different term or people just referred to it as something, whatever. That's kind of the natural flow. So
yeah, so long-winded there, but kind of talked into like philosophy of playing the game of football too, which I think makes this an even more exciting term of the week.
Yeah, well, I think it can apply to other sports. Like I don't necessarily know that it's only a football thing. I think that's probably the one you more commonly will hear it or see it used, but I think it can apply to probably any sport technically.
Yeah, well, yeah. A real quick example of that in hockey, if the game is 3-2, the losing team, there's only a minute left, the losing team is going to pull their goalie out to have an extra skater.
Right.
So if they lose then 4-2, it looks like a bigger loss than it actually was. And it's because the game script forced them to adjust to pull their goalie and to leave themselves vulnerable for an empty net goal. So again, yeah, I think it's applicable to really anything that has strategy. And we just mostly see it utilized in football, probably because of fantasy football.
I mean, and there was definitely a few people that I met in Vegas that were trying to sell me the game scripts, but I wasn't buying that. So it was I think that was a different terminology they were using.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I do think that term has multiple definitions, but this is the one that we kind of see the most. And it's usually, like I said, used in hindsight.
Yeah, like I hear it more like, oh, it's scripted, like here's the script. I can tell you, what's going to happen or whatever.
Yeah, well, in Vegas, you'll hear all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. See a lot of things too.
Well, I want to talk about the biggest stories that we had this past week in NFL, and we don't have to belabor this because I think we have a lot of really fun things we can talk about moving forward in the season here. But a big story is that the Chiefs were eliminated from the playoffs this week. And this is something you and I had kind of gone back and forth on. We've been following them all year pretty closely. I think that we both kind of thought like they could be a team that could come from behind and make a big push late in the season. Not going to be the case this year. And it felt almost like every week that went by, that became less and less likely. But this week, officially eliminated. And to add salt to the wounds, Patrick Mahomes went out on what looked like it could have maybe been a game-winning drive with a torn ACL.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it sucks. Obviously, I don't like seeing people get hurt just in general, because I've, come to appreciate that injuries suck in football overall for everybody. Fantasy, if you're a coach, if you're a fan, I mean, pretty much any situation, it's not fun. For the Chiefs in general, I don't know, man. I think some of it was just kind of this desensitization to, the Chiefs. Somehow they always find a way. They're always there at the end of the year. They, because they have, like, for the past how many years, they've always, even in the years that they don't look good, they've always grinded and made the playoff, made the Super Bowl, made the AFC championship or whatever. Like, they're somehow just always there. And so it's kind of, I think, relieving and almost a fresh look to see this happen, not in like a cynical way, but like, okay, we actually have some other teams that are performing out there, and we're not going to see hopefully the same old every single year in the playoffs. So from that perspective, I think it's exciting. I mean, I have to call myself out because I definitely recall, I think there was even a clip posted on this where I said that I thought the Chiefs were starting their, run at one point where they were going to then make their quote unquote kind of comeback and push to the end of the year. And clearly this did not happen.
I don't think you need to call yourself out. I think that was a pretty common thought, including myself and my friends that I talk football with. I think a lot of people, I mean, the Chiefs were still a Super Bowl favorite, even when they were on the bubble for even making the playoffs at one point.
Yeah. Which, crazy. I mean,
just a crazy story here. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, I mean, that's how it's been. So I feel like it makes sense that the betting odds were that way and all this stuff. The only other thing I'll say about the Patrick Mahomes thing that I thought was kind of, semi-humorous is there's all those weird things about Dylan Raiola, the guy from Nebraska, and somebody on X posted like reports in or whatever, like it was like some fake text message stream, and it was like Dylan Raiola texting or tweeting or something like, should I tear my ACL now? Like, because he's like Mahomes and all the stuff, and people are saying he might transfer to Texas Tech to be like Mahomes, and so I was
He's
like,
in the portal.
Oh my God,
He's officially in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I know, but I keep seeing stuff about that of like him saying like, should I tear my ACL because of Patrick? Or
it's kind of
wow.
It's kind of a weird thing. I mean, I get trying to emulate your game after somebody else, and he is a talented quarterback, but to have the same hairstyle, the same football number, the same headband, I don't know. There's a lot of weird kind of commonalities there as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of commonalities, though, I thought this was just kind of an eerie thing that I saw on social media looking at Patrick Mahomes' injury. So the comparisons to Tom Brady, there's nothing new with that. There's been so many comparisons about Tom being the GOAT, Patrick being on track to maybe pass him at some point in his career. Crazy thing here, in their 8th season, both Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes made it to the Super Bowl to try and get their 4th Super Bowl win, and both lost in that Super Bowl. And then the following season, season 9, both of them had a major knee injury and their team missed the playoffs for the first time in a while. And so just kind of a weird stat. Now, there are some differences here. Tom Brady's injury, I believe, was in week 1. And so his team had to go an entire season without him playing quarterback. Patrick Mahomes obviously got hurt this week. What was this week? 15? Week 15, maybe?
Yeah.
And so they could technically still have made the playoffs after 15 weeks if they were performing well, but they haven't been, so they won't. But just a weird, eerily similar kind of career trajectory and in a comparison that has already been going on for a while. So, if things continue to be similar, then Patrick Mahomes will bounce back from this injury and have a really great career with many more Super Bowl wins, but we'll see what happens, to be determined there.
Yeah. That is very weird. It's one of those like interesting facts that always come up in people. So I don't even know how people find that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do people even add 2 and 2 together to that depth where they're looking that closely at stuff? I mean, I guess there's people out there that track that kind of stuff, but I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah. I'm not one of those guys. I will consume that kind of content. I'm not going to go find it.
That keeps us on social media, right?
Yeah. Listen, another big ACL injury in a year that ACLs have been popping like crazy. We could probably have a 30-minute segment talking about the number of injuries and the same similar types of injuries happening, not just in the NFL, but in sports across the country. But the Packers lost Micah Parsons to an ACL injury this week as well, and a very close loss to Denver. Again, another one-possession game. And I guess my thought here, and Deeb, I don't know if you had a chance to watch this game at all, but do you think the Micah Parsons injury changed the outcome of the game? And I will also say that Christian Watson got hurt this game too. So they had an offensive and a defensive key injury that kind of occurred. But what are your thoughts on that?
I definitely think it had an impact on the outcome. I mean, when you lose, arguably your best defensive lineman and potentially defensive player, of course, that's going to change the outcome. Going back just a second, though, because I was this is actually something I've been generally curious about, more so because the topic has actually come up with the high school team that I coach. So a lot of even high school teams, believe it or not, have moved to are moving to turf versus natural grass. And I'm also just kind of generally wondering, like, I would be curious to see if there's a statistic of how many NFL stadiums have turf versus grass. I don't know if grass is even a thing anymore in NFL, or if it's just like, the outdoor stadiums that exist. But
I think it is only in outdoor stadiums and not even in all of those. But ironically, here in Denver, I think that is real grass. So this Micah Parsons injury is a bit of an outlier compared to a lot of these ACL injuries.
I gotcha. Yeah, because that was something that we were wondering just in general, like, is the turf causing a lot more? Because when you land on turf, it's different than when you land. I know you know that. I mean, we had a grass field. We played on a few grass fields this past year, and it is definitely a different in terms of impact. And, like when your feet get stuck and when you land and all this kind of stuff. How does, I think the second thing you asked was, does this affect Green Bay? How do they stack up for the postseason?
Yeah, I'm really curious kind of thoughts on that, because obviously in some lenses before this week, they were a Super Bowl favorite for the NFC. Now they're losing arguably the best pass rusher in the league.
Yeah.
Are they still a favorite? I mean, they're not even in first in their division now because they lost that game, but they're still right there, like a half game out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that just losing only one player determines, your entire faith, especially I think the quarterback is probably, in my opinion, harder to lose if you have a really good quarterback. Not to say that, your best defensive player doesn't matter, but I don't know, man. I mean, I definitely think they looked strong in the beginning. Now they're just kind of like, even with the Lions too. I know the Lions are also on the bubble, and we'll talk more about that, but I don't know. I was never super confident that they were going to be the team in the postseason. Now they're almost like, might they miss the playoff potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think either they or the Lions do at this point. There's not a lot of wiggle room anymore.
Yeah, so it'll definitely impact them. I don't think it's going to end their season.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like, yes, they're going to be weaker overall.
Be an interesting finish of the year there. They play the Bears again, and so that's a huge game because the Bears are a game ahead of them now.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a few other teams here with the recap. We had the Colts playing Seattle this week. And one of the most bizarre stories of the entire year, Phillip Rivers came out of retirement on 1 week's worth of practice, started for the Colts playing at Seattle, which is one of the top teams in the entire league, and they have an amazing defense. We have a 44-year-old, objectively overweight Phillip Rivers. I mean, if you've seen him, he's not in the same form he was when he used to play.
Oh, yeah.
Starting for the Colts. I would have literally told someone they were clinically insane if you would have told me Phillip Rivers would start a football game this year, let alone for a team that's on a playoff bubble. And so here we are. Phillip Rivers comes in. He gets a touchdown. He scores a touchdown. That in itself is an amazing accomplishment. Yeah. But the big story for this game is that with like 52 seconds left, he led them to a field goal that took the lead over, I think the Seahawks are 11-3. Don't quote me on that. Mm-hmm. I think they're 11-3. They took the lead over them, and it looked like they would win. And then with 50 seconds left, Seattle came down the field and kicked a field goal of their own to win the game. So a heartbreaking loss for the Colts, who have lost now 4 in a row, went from being the top seed in the AFC to now on the outside looking in. But a crazy story that Phillip Rivers almost beat the Seahawks with 1 week's worth of practice on that Colts team.
I thought it was like a meme when I saw that he was coming back. I was like, there's no way this guy's coming back. And then it was true. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, how bad does your backup quarterback or your quarterback room have to be to settle to have Phillip Rivers come out of retirement? You know what I mean? I looked up who the backups are. It's Riley Leonard. He was a Notre Dame.
He was hurt.
He's a rookie.
Too.
Yeah, and I know
I think he could have played, but he was banged up.
Yeah, and then Brett Ripon, which I mean, I don't really know who that is. He's from Boise State apparently, but I'm like, oh my god, like that's wild to me that dude is their option. Like, I'm surprised they didn't trade for Joe Flacco earlier.
Dude, a bigger issue here, and this could be a 20-minute segment, so we'll be quick. But Anthony Richardson is on that team, and they had him he's been a scratch all season long, with Riley Leonard being the backup. They literally have Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Isn't he on IR, though?
He was. Get this. One day after the loss, they activated him from the IR. He's cleared all of a sudden to return. And get this. This is a funny quote I saw. This is from Reddit. So just, preface that. Popular comment. So, do you want a brain with no arm or an arm with no brain? Was the question.
My God. I mean... I don't know, man. That has to be you have to be pretty desperate to pick up a 44-year-old man.
Yes,
come out of retirement. Like that's unreal. Like that's like the Bulls picking up Michael Jordan out of retirement because they're desperate. I mean, maybe that's a little more of a stretch, obviously, but I'm like, what? Like,
I think the crazy thing here is despite 4 straight losses, largely due to the Daniel Jones injury, because he broke his bone in his leg first before he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
There's still only 1 game out of the playoffs, but they have to play against Seattle this week, who's a legitimate team. Meanwhile, the Texans, who is the team that's a game ahead of them, is playing against the Cardinals, who is blow it all up and rebuild it type of a team. So it's looking gloomy.
Didn't they just play Seattle?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking a week back. Thank you for correcting that. Yeah.
No, you're good. I was I thought you just said they played the Seahawks.
No, you're right. Okay. I'm wrong about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah. I don't actually know who they play next, but they need to win.
After the start that team had to this year and how much we talked about them, I mean,
They play the
I don't know,
49ers. They play the 49ers and the Texans play the Raiders. That's actually even worse than what I had said originally.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think the Colts are done, man. I hate to say it. They were 8-1 at one point, I think. And it's just like, I think their fall from grace needs to be studied. They might have actually, now that I'm looking at it here, and I think this website I was using is a week behind. I think that the Colts have actually lost 5 games in a row, which is even crazier.
Yeah. I mean, they only had like 1 or 2 losses. I think when we talked about them a few weeks ago, and it was like, oh yeah, this is the number 1 team. You know, I remember specifically us talking about it. Like,
yeah,
you know,
they've lost 5 of 6. So yeah, it's been a kind of a crash.
That's
one
rough.
more team I want to talk about with a polarizing quarterback here, and just one immediate, like, just give me 2 sentences of your first impression of this. But the Vikings beat the Cowboys this week, and JJ McCarthy had his second straight game with 3 touchdowns, and again the second straight week of winning. JJ McCarthy has been a very polarizing quarterback in this league. He catches a lot of shit. His mechanics are not good. He misses wide open receivers, but then he throws dimes to guys that he probably shouldn't even be throwing to, and they catch it. What are your thoughts on JJ McCarthy? I mean, this is only like his 8th start. He didn't even play last year, so it's like it's even worse than a rookie coming into the league because he didn't even play a snap the whole year last year. So it's like he's like a rookie that missed his last year of college. Do you think that JJ McCarthy is like a long-term quarterback in this league, or do you think this is going to be a flash in the pan and we won't know who he is 5 years from now?
I mean, I just look at it as this is his rookie season. I know that that's not accurate, but I don't know. I really can't tell if he's bad or it just takes him some time. I mean, I don't know that he will be a long-term quarterback. I mean, again, as we've seen with guys like Sam Darnold, sometimes it's just you have to get some experience, go to different teams, and you could be great. So I don't want to count him out, but he's certainly not looking right now like he's going to be a long-term guy. But hell, he could be, I mean, 5 years from now, he could win a Super Bowl for all I know.
Yeah. And in this league, who knows? And I think JJ, I think he needs some time. His mechanics need a lot of work. He doesn't look the same as other quarterbacks when you watch him play.
Yeah.
But I do keep telling myself, you know, he's only had like 8 starts. And when you compare that to people like last year, like Drake May and Bo Nix, for example, after their first 8 starts, they didn't really look that great either. And people were kind of questioning them. And then they both kind of ended the season much better. So I'm not out on JJ yet, especially as a guy who loved watching him in Michigan. I know that's a hometown bias kind of coming into play here, but I'm not out on him yet, but he's got to get it together, man. He's got to build some consistency. He cannot throw the ball to Justin Jefferson, and I don't know how or why. He can throw the ball to other players on that team. If you watch the game this week, he was hitting people. Great timing, but not with Jefferson. Yeah. And so it's bizarre to me.
Well, and they've had kind of a weird situation at running back. Like I know they have Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I think you have to have like a pretty solid running back that's consistent. And I mean, it's hard, right? Because people get injured, but it makes it so much harder, especially when you're new and you can't rely on the run as much. So
that's fair.
It's part of it.
Well, Deeb, let's talk. I want to hear opinions. I want us to both go back and forth here. Let's take some strong stances here. Feel free to debate me, but we'll call it the opinion roulette, and let's have some rules here that we'll establish. Don't do any research to anything I say, and I won't do anything to what you say either. But you have to take a stance. You have to say yes or no. You have to agree or disagree, and we can kind of talk about why or why not. Okay. About just any opinions you have. It can be college football or NFL for where we're at right now. So some examples might be like this team is better than their record, which I can start off with that one. I'll start off with that one. The Baltimore Ravens are better than their record. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think they've had a very weird season. They obviously didn't have Lamar. He was injured. And not to say but again, I think I go back to a comment I made earlier, like when your quarterback gets hurt, it just throws your team into a funk. You know what I mean? Like you're operating under a different individual backup who, not to say that all backups are horrible, but I mean, he's like a really electric guy. I mean, when he's running and throwing and he's at his best, like they're so hard to beat, especially with Derrick Henry and some of the other weapons. But I do think they are a better team than what their record shows. I think they just kind of had a weird funk with his injury and some of the stuff in the middle of the year.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. I think even since he got back from his injury, it's been pretty evident to me watching him play that he still is hurt. I know he's been limited in practice a lot, even though he's been playing. And the thing that makes the Baltimore Ravens offense tick, and this should make sense, hopefully just conceptualizing this, if you have a quarterback that you always have to worry about passing and running, then even on running plays, you have to worry about the running back running and or the quarterback running. There's always multiple people you've got to be clued in on. And so the offense doesn't work as well when you take that away, because then it's like, well, in running situations, we're only worried about the running back. In passing situations, we're only going to cover the pass. And so I think that the more injured he is, the worse that entire offensive scheme works, because the whole plan of that offense, the whole structure is built around the dual threat of him being a quarterback. And I think every week he's getting a little healthier. And the Steelers are only one game ahead of them in that division. I could see them sneaking into this playoffs, especially because they still have one more game against the Steelers. And I could see them being a playoff team that could make a run if they can stay healthy and Lamar keeps getting more and more like himself.
Fair.
All right, you're up. Let's do two or three each. We'll see how long it goes.
Okay. Mine will be, excuse me, Shedeur Sanders will no longer be a starting quarterback 3 years from now.
Easy agree, in my opinion. And I will say, I'm not necessarily rooting against the guy. I think that the narrative would be so phenomenal if he was a star in this league, because of what he's gone through with the draft and then having another rookie start over him and being like the fifth string quarterback to all of a sudden becoming a starter. Not to say that's all because of his successes, because it's mostly because of entry and trades, but he beat a really bad team in the Raiders and he played good in that game.
Yeah.
But then he did not play well the game before that. He didn't play well his second start against the 49ers. He statistically played really well against the Titans, which is like the worst team in the league, but still lost the football game through no fault of his own.
Yep.
And then he had a horrible game this past week against, I think it was the Bears they played, which there was a big, like, Jerry Jeudy dropped a long pass that should have been a great play for him, but
yeah,
it was a 0 touchdown and 3 interception game. I don't think it's inconceivable that he's not even a backup in 3 years, let alone he's definitely not a starter, in my opinion. Deshaun Watson comes back at some point, and he's guaranteed to be better than Sanders and Gabriel, in my opinion. And then what other team needs a quarterback is that, I'll say, either Gabriel or Sanders caliber. And I don't think anybody really needs somebody at that caliber.
Well, and one of the other reasons I say that, other than obviously I think some of the weird antics and all this politics and all the stuff that happened with him, but Browns quarterbacks are just not successful. Like, name the last Browns quarterback other than Baker Mayfield, maybe, that went to another team and did reasonable. Like, yeah. I don't know what the heck it is about the Browns, but that's where quarterbacks go to die. Like, yeah. It's so weird. It's such a weird concept, but I just think not only does he have all those other things working against him, but the fact that he plays for the Browns,
that's a major downfall. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a good situation overall. So unless he gets traded, there's a possibility, but I don't know that he gets traded and is a starter. I think he comes in, if he gets traded, he may be a backup, or if somebody's absolutely desperate, like this weird Colts situation where they absolutely needed someone.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But. Speaking of that, really quick to go off script here, did you see that maybe this was fake? I don't know. I didn't check the credibility of this, but I read that Cam Newton was offended that they didn't call him. That's all I want to say.
Wow. I didn't see that, but that doesn't
to be
surprise
fair,
me.
I don't know. I mean, Cam Newton can't be much worse than Phillip Rivers, but anyway, that's an aside. I think the Colts took Phillip Rivers because he's known for winning the division every year, but not really advancing anywhere in the playoffs his whole career.
That's kind of awkward, though. Don't you want to advance in the playoffs?
Well, yeah, true.
But
all right, my next opinion roulette is Travis Kelsey needs to retire after this season. It's not a do I think he will or should he. He fundamentally 100% needs to retire after this season. And I will justify why I say that before. Actually, you know what? I'll let you choose if you agree or disagree, and then I can justify.
I don't necessarily think he needs to retire. I think he probably should retire, but I think if he really, I don't know what his ambitions are, but if he really wants to go out on a high or whatever, redeem himself from the loss in the Super Bowl last year, find a team, like the Broncos or even the Patriots, where you can go for your last year, be a Super Bowl contender. May or may not be a starter, maybe more of a role player, but I think he could still do that. Remember the guy from, what was his name? Like Jason Witten, and there's some of the tight ends have played forever.
Tony Gonzalez had a super long career.
Yeah, Tony Gonzalez. So I'm like, I mean, I think he could retire, but if he really wants to try to go for one more ring, I could see him going somewhere for one more shot. But he's got to go to a team he knows is going to, be in that position.
And I think you're making my argument for me while kind of simultaneously disagreeing with me. I can't imagine at this stage in his career, Kelsey going and playing anywhere else because he has such a strong legacy as with the Chiefs and he has so much fame and popularity there because of his own accomplishments, but also I think because in recent years of the whole Taylor Swift thing as well. And I think that's made Travis Kelsey synonymous with the Chiefs because it's brought such a huge audience to him. So I will say that is why I think he needs to retire. If you watch the Chiefs play football this year, the Chiefs are not a team that has been winning football games, but they've been in football games. And when you watch these games, Travis Kelsey is not looking like Travis Kelsey. He's dropping passes that he used to catch every time. He's not fighting for the extra yard or pressing for that downfield block quite as hard. You can see it after the plays are over with. The energy, the passion that let's be honest here, Travis Kelsey, hell of a career, one of the best ever at the position, but not a super stellar athlete in really any one particular thing, right? Like not the top speed, not the tallest tight end we've ever seen. I think it's been pure grit and passion and just hard work and ethic that has made him as successful as he's been. When you watch him play right now, I don't see that. I see a guy who looks frustrated, a guy who looks like he at times just would rather be in the locker room because the game's not going well. A guy who now is not speaking to the media, even in Kansas City, his home. I think he's done, man. I think mentally he's lost the spark, and I think he's had a hell of a career, and he has the right to mentally be done playing the game of football. But I think that he needs to retire because that team has made him such a focal point and such a leader that if he's not, demanding the focus and not leading, that they're missing out on somebody else stepping up into that role. They have no running game. They have really young wide receivers. They have one of the best quarterbacks of all time. They can still rebuild this ship, but they need to get rid of that piece. Travis Kelsey needs to go so other people can rise up and become future leaders for the team. If not, then their dynasty's over. They're not going to rebuild from this while he's there, in my opinion.
Well, he has a lot of distractions off the field. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, and also his wife makes like billions of dollars, right? His fiance. So he doesn't need the money.
It's not his wife yet.
It's got to be for the love of the game. And I think he's had the love of the game before. And I don't know if he still has the same love for the game. That's me wrapping it up in a bow and shipping it off as a Christmas gift of knowledge.
His love has been stolen.
You could say that. Yeah. I mean, he's got something else that he cares about in his life just as much as football now. And hey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we all have something that we love as much as a child's game?
All right. Do I have the last one?
Yeah. Give me one more.
All right. Quick question for clarity. Does it have to be NFL or can it be anything?
No, it can be college. Let's just stick to football.
I had a good one for you.
Nope. Then that's fine. It just better not be about LeBron James because that
shit. How'd you know?
Me, if we go down that rabbit hole, that will be a whole hour and we're not doing that again.
Well,
we can make a whole episode in like March about the GOAT of basketball, and it could be a whole episode. We're not doing that tonight, though.
We need to bring in a debate panel for that episode, though, so that we can have like,
as long as they're non-biased, because I'm tired of people who are just haters that can't realize the greatness that they're seeing.
Hey, that's what the panel's for. You can hear all sides. No, mine was going to be, and if you don't want to answer this, that's okay. Mine was going to be that LeBron James needs to retire.
Yeah, after this year, I would 100% agree with that.
That was
James, just like what I just said about Kelsey. I don't think that necessarily he's mentally as gone as Kelsey is, but physically he's losing it. He can't run back and play defense as much. He's not as good on the fast break. There's just people who can shoot the three better. There's people he can still hang. He can still hang, but he's not LeBron James right now. He's LeBron James. He's not LeBron James anymore.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do a different one because that one I feel like was kind of obvious. So this is mine. I would like to see some differences, and I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but some differences in how they select finalists for the Heisman Trophy. Because it seems like, and I'll preface this with, I get it. There was a running back in the running this year. Yes, last year I know a quarterback didn't win it. But I mean, if you look back over the past, whatever it is, 10 years or more recently, it just seems like it's so dominated by quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So then it almost like becomes just a quarterback award. And I mean, don't they, if I'm not mistaken, don't they have a quarterback award, or isn't there like a best quarterback award out there already? And if not, can we just do that and give it to the best quarterback and maybe try to figure out something a little bit different? But that's going to be my opinion, is that I just think it's being too overly dominated by quarterbacks recently, and it just kind of makes it annoying, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I would say that the same rule applies for the MVP for the NFL. By that logic, Saquon Barkley probably should have been the MVP last year.
100%.
Josh Allen should have an MVP on his resume, but it shouldn't have been last year. It should have actually been the year before, whenever Lamar won. And so I think things are backwards when it comes to MVP voting or Heisman voting. I think too much weight is placed on wins and positions. It's wins first, and then it's quarterbacks, and then everything else falls behind that. And I will die on that hill. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Ashton Genty should have won it last year. Saquon Barkley should have been the MVP last year. But either way, I love Josh Allen's my favorite athlete that's active in sports right now. He shouldn't have been the MVP last season. I'm just going to say that. But he should have been the year before. And it's almost like do the MVP committee voters, do they have a memory? Like, where they're like, shit, we got it wrong last year, let's give it to him this year? I don't know, but it shouldn't be that way. It should just be to who is the most valuable player. And it doesn't have to be a quarterback, because it's not always actually a quarterback.
Well, and it just makes it so hard because you're comparing players that are different positions. And so it's like you have a running back that has one of the greatest seasons of all time in history in both sports, NFL and college, but they don't get the award. You know, so it's like it's this weird, it's almost like apples and oranges. Quarterbacks and running backs do very different things. And how do you even compare them, you know, when they're side by side in a voting panel? It just, I don't know, it creates just weird dynamics. That's going to be mine.
Yeah, I love it. Fully support that. All right, I'm going to give you excuse me. I'm going to give you a speed round. This is what I'm going to call the lazy power rankings. We're not going to rank every team, but out of the teams in the NFL right now, who are the 3 teams that you trust the most to make it deep into the playoffs? It could be either side, just 3 teams.
I'm looking at it real quick to see who's all in the running right now. Oh man. I mean, I think I kind of got to stick with this, because I feel like I talked about this early in the year when we talked about what would be cool predictions. And I said it'd be cool if the Broncos take over for the Chiefs. I know they're the number 1 team, so clearly that's like a very easy out, but they look good, man. Like their defense is solid. Their offense is clicking. Bo Nix is the real deal. They have somewhat of a running game. They have pretty good wide receivers. I hope they make a run. I know it's hard as the number 1 team, but that's one that I trust. Patriots is a cop-out, so I won't use that.
It's not a cop-out. I don't think they're a guarantee. If you feel that way, then do it.
I don't know, though. I don't know if I trust them.
I mean, they just lost to another team that's in the playoffs, so.
Yeah. I still trust the Bills. I did say that early on. I think they're my preseason Super Bowl pick. I know, again, they've had their issues. I still trust them. I think that they have a lot of playoff experience. And Josh Allen's, like you said, he's a solid guy. That's the second one. And then third is going to be, I suppose I should pick somebody from the NFC, right? Let's go with this is one that's not as expected, but let's go with the 49ers. Somehow the 49ers are always that weird team that is semi like pretty good, and then they just somehow make a deep run. Especially I can recall back to when they beat the Lions a few years back, but give me the 49ers on that side.
You know, the crazy thing about the Niners is they've had so many injuries this year, and they're only 1 game back from being the top NFC team. That's actually insane to think about.
I know.
I'll share mine, and I'll be quick here. I agree with the Broncos. I think it'd be a really cool story if they pulled out of the AFC. I think they're going to be good for years. They've got a good young core, and man, they just keep looking better. Bo Nix gets the ball out so fast that it doesn't matter how good your defense is at blitzing. So give me the Broncos. And then I'm going to pivot, man. You know that the team I want to win is the Bills. And if you ask me who I thought would win, I'm going to choose them. But when it comes down to trust to make a deep run in the playoffs, they are missing the elite wide receivers. And so that does limit, it makes Josh Allen have to be superhuman every single week. So the teams I trust to make it, let's say, to the Super Bowl more than them, I said the Broncos already. I'm going to say the Rams and the Seahawks. And I hate to leave the Bills out. I hope they win, but I don't trust them as much. Out of current playoff teams, who are the 3 teams you don't trust to make a deep run?
The Steelers. I don't know. They always somehow flop. They always make it and then somehow flop. The Bears. Just mainly, not that they're not doing well this year. They're doing well. I just don't know. They have a young team. They have, young quarterback, young wide receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, their defense could maybe carry them, but they're talented, but they don't have a lot of playoff experience. And then I hate to say this, but the Buccaneers, like the Buccaneers are so weird. Like their season has been so weird. I know they're still in first somehow at 7-7, which is crazy, but
we'll see how this week goes.
I mean, they got Bucky back, if I'm not mistaken. Their wide receivers are great, but like they're just so hot and cold. I don't know whether to like them or not in the playoffs, but I'm going to say not.
Another team plagued by injuries. They've had Evans out for most of the year, Godwin out for most of the year, Buka got hurt, Bucky Irvin out for most of the year. Baker Mayfield has been really banged up in recent weeks. I think his non-throwing shoulder is pretty banged up.
Yeah.
So I think a victim of circumstance there. I think that team can be really, really good going forward. But I'm with you. The three teams I don't trust. Number one is the Buccaneers. They're tied for first in their division, and they're playing against the Panthers this week. So whoever wins that will be the favorite for the playoffs.
Yeah, which is wild.
It is wild, and the other team really has virtually no shot at the wild card. Technically not eliminated, but unlikely to get a wild card spot. So only one of those teams gets it. I don't trust the Bucs to make a deep run, even if they win the division. Other teams I don't trust. I love your pick with the Steelers. I agree with that. I don't think they can make a deep run because every other week they look like shit, and then every other week they look good. You can't make a good run. You don't make a deep run that way. Yeah. And then I'm going to say one that might be a little controversial here. But my last pick is going to be the Patriots. I don't trust. Again, I think that they're a super young team overall. They have a really, really bright future. They're tied for the second best record in the entire NFL, but they haven't had a strong schedule. The best team they've beaten is the Bills, and then the Bills just beat them this past week and got that revenge, that payback.
Yep.
It was a very, very close game. The Patriots were up like 21 points at one point, and they just blew their lead. And I think what this comes down to is in the harsh pressure of the playoffs. I don't know if they can win 3-4 weeks in a row. So
yeah,
I could be very wrong, but Patriots are the team I don't trust. And then tell me, what is one team that you keep changing your mind on
for playoffs?
Yeah, for a deep run. Like out of all the playoff teams right now, who do you keep going back and forth on? I already said mine. I'll start. Mine is the Packers. Every other week, I'm like, oh, this is a Super Bowl team. Oh no, this is just a playoff team. Oh, this is a Super Bowl team. No, now Micah Parsons is out. Maybe just a playoff team. So who's that for you?
Mine's probably the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they look really, really good. Sometimes I'm like, again, I don't know. Like I haven't really seen the Jaguars in the playoffs recently, so
no, nobody has.
Yeah, so I'm like, I have no idea. They could make a deep run. They couldn't.
I'm with you. The Jags are very questionable for me. There's all kinds of hypotheticals we could talk about in the playoffs here. So let me just ask one final question. Who is one team that you think that nobody wants to play against? Like they hope they don't have to play against in the playoffs? That team that could upset anybody at any time.
I would say right now the Texans.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Amazing defense and a surging offense. I know Woody Marks is kind of banged up at running back, but
yeah,
he hasn't been that much of a focal point since CJ Stroud came back. So I'm with you. Nobody wants to go against an elite defense in the playoffs. And so I would say the same thing.
Well, and they were like, I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs for a long time. They still might not make it, but I don't know. They seem to have gotten hot at the end when it matters.
Yeah, I mean, they've looked really good since Stroud got back.
Yeah.
All right, Deeb, let's take a break from sports here. What are you drinking tonight? Talk to me about your pour.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I've featured this one on here before, and it doesn't look like so. So this is going to be a new one. So I'm going to do this on the fly. I don't know if you can see this.
Look at mine. That's why I'm laughing.
Nice. We're Bardstown boys. So this is the Bardstown Small Batch Stave Finish. It is 47%, 94 proof. It's a bourbon that is finished with oak staves. I don't actually know I do know how old these are. So it's a mixture of 4 different blends that they mixed, 8-year, 5-year, 4-year, 12-year. So it's, one of those. Yeah, one of those ones where there's a ton of mixture of just random stuff. But it's from Bardstown, obviously, Bardstown, Kentucky. This one is one that I picked up last year on the trail at the distillery. It was one that I think we either did it in the tasting or somehow I got a hold of it. I think it was like we might have got something at the bar no, you know what? It was at lunch. I had I think you had it. Maybe somebody in our group had it this year, the Flight with all the featured ones.
Yes, I did.
So I don't know. I don't remember if this one was on yours this year, but it stuck out to me when I had it. So I decided to buy a bottle of it because I was like, man, this is pretty good, something different. But smell, I get like it's very mellow. It's like a caramel, almost like a caramel, very just caramel vanilla. Like it's nothing crazy. It's not one of those where you're going to be like, oh my God, this is like, the craziest thing I've ever smelled in my life. So smells kind of like, yeah, okay, like smooth, nothing crazy. And then on the taste, I get it's kind of like it's that feeling you get after you eat like a nice piece of pie. It's that like warm, just kind of like baked pie, almost, like holiday feel where you've just eaten a piece of pie and you're like, wow, that was super delicious. Like I just had my dessert. And it was just kind of like one of those like homey feels. That's my very generic way of how I can explain it. And I would probably give this one an 83 on the scale. I think it's a great one, that you can sip on casually, but it's not something that I would die for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I just showed mine already, and this will look very familiar to what I've had before. It's the Bardstown Origin, but the trick with this one, it's their Bardstown single barrel party source pick. And I've talked about this before, but never rated it. So this one, Party Source, it's a liquor store right on the coast of like Cincinnati and Kentucky. Right, it actually shares a parking lot with the New Riff Distillery that we've talked about in our bourbon video if you watched it. And this is a single barrel product, which is always kind of like their highest barrel quality. It only comes out of one barrel instead of a blend of barrels. Aged 6 years, has a 114.6 proof. And I have ranked the regular Origin before, but not this single barrel one that I'm talking about here. And so some of this may sound familiar if you're a diehard of the podcast. I don't know how many of those we have. However, very much like vanilla, cinnamon, kind of orange, almost like a fruity flavor on the smell. And then I'm going to taste it and give you a real time kind of taste. Yeah. Almost sounds like cheating, Deeb, but I agree. Same distillery. Definitely got like a pie crust flavor and heavy cinnamon, really vanilla-y, and a finish that just kind of goes on for days. You don't got to sip it too often. You'll keep tasting. I'm still tasting it while I'm talking here. I would give this like an 86, I think. And just so, like, if you guys don't really realize this is actually something I learned for the first time this year. So obviously single barrel products are all bottled from a single barrel. They're not blended with other barrels. But I didn't realize that these distilleries have like master like taste testers that will go in and taste each of the different barrels, and they rate them with like letters or numbers. And to become a single barrel product, you have to be ranked like the highest rating. You can't be a single barrel if you're like mid or low tier. Yep. And so pretty much anytime you can get a single barrel is going to be like the best taste for that product. Yep. And if you can get a store pick, it's even better because then a second kind of set of palate was on that to make sure it was the best of the best.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had the one from last year and I really enjoyed that. And I forgot to mention, I did look it up because I forgot this, but bottle's about somewhere between 60 and $70 for the one that I had.
I can tell you exactly what mine was. Let me check my Venmo because
wasn't it like $84?
I think so. Yeah. And shout out Nick for picking this up from the Party Source because I drive from North Carolina now and I can't stop there on my route. Let me see what my transactions. Yeah, it was $85. So wow, hefty price, worth the money. Yeah, worth the money though.
Hell yeah.
Deeb, I'm going to ask you one question actually about really life in sports, and then we're going to move on.
Yep.
Obviously, this has been a very busy season for both of us in our lives. Obviously, we've had a lot going on. I know you've been traveling a ton, and that can really throw off routine. Routine for me is how I stay up to date on things. So when life gets you very busy, like we've been recently, how do you keep up on sports and still balance your other priorities?
Well, I'm in a lot of group chats, including ones with yourself where sports is a, hot topic every day. So we're always sending, or people are always sending things, hot stories, things like controversies. Hey, did you see this? That sort of thing. So that's part of it for me when it's, challenging to watch things. And then I will also, I like to watch YouTube videos like whenever I can. So if I'm taking a lunch, if I got like 30 minutes or whatever to eat something, I'll just throw on like a YouTube video to catch up. Mainly, I will admit it's sometimes Oregon related just because that's my team. But from time to time, like I was following some of the Michigan stuff with the coach, which I know we didn't talk about, but
That's a whole can of worms too.
Yeah, that's like a whole episode. But
can we pretend like that never happened and Michigan didn't have that blemish? I would love that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, I would say through friends. X is another good resource that I will check.
You're the only person I know that calls it X.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably, I feel like, my main one to at least just see some memes and laugh a little bit, but catch up on some sports too.
Yeah, I would agree. There are sports that I watch more than others. I try and set specific kind of different types of notifications through my ESPN app, so I'm at least abreast of like big things that are happening in sports. But you're right. I mean, group chats, just asking questions to friends who I also know are keeping up with sports, and even debates, like off-camera debates. Like, I think that all goes a very long way. And those are things you can control when you consume them, right? Social media, group text, you can always mark something unread and come back to it later. And that really helps you to kind of focus on whatever you're doing in the moment, but still have that content there with a notification to remind you that it's there. And I think the podcast too. I mean, we talked about this back in the very beginning. Yeah. This gives us a reason to hold ourselves accountable to staying up to sports news. And seasonally, I think we focus on certain sports more than others, but we're always following the biggest stories. And that's why we do it that way. So thankful for this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm counting down the days until golf starts in a couple months.
Trust, I can tell the difference between like after football ends, there's such a difference in your passion that I can see as like just another sports fan when there's no golf versus when golf starts. And it's like, it's like palpable. I can see it so vividly.
Yeah. Well, golf is also like it comes at a weird time in February, but it's like the start of change of season to warmer weather, just probably, obviously everywhere. So it's like, all right, you can look forward to that as well.
True. Yeah, I agree. All right, I'm going to give you 2 hypothetical questions. These are just like what ifs. Who would you say your NFL team is right now? Like if you had one team that you loved the most, and make it either a playoff team or a bubble team. Putting you on the spot here.
Man, you're talking like as a fan.
Yeah, like you specifically as a fan of the sport.
I mean, it's got to be the Lions.
Okay, so hypothetically, let's say the Lions make the playoffs this year.
Yep.
Which they absolutely could, but they're also they're on the bubble right now. They need to win out, probably.
Yeah.
But who is your nightmare matchup? First round of the playoffs, who do you not want to face in the NFC then?
The Rams. I mean,
that's exactly what I would have said if I was you.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would rather face the Bears or the Eagles, but based on where they're at, they're probably going to end up with, probably the Rams, unless I'm trying to remember, does the number 1 get a bye?
Number 1 does get a bye, yeah.
Okay, so they would probably face the Bears, right? Or I don't know. Bears or Eagles, I think, right? Depending on how things shake out. Yeah,
it's going to depend how things shake out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather much see them play either one of those teams.
I would agree with that. I think to answer the same question, my team is the Bills. The Bills technically could still win the division, but if they don't, either way, I think the nightmare situation is that they find themselves playing against, it's going to sound crazy. I would have never said this like 4 weeks ago. I do not want the Bills to have to play against the Texans in the first round of the playoffs. And I'll justify why. The Bills don't have weapons on the outside, and the Texans have a great defense. So if they can just shut down the tight ends and try and contain Josh Allen, like it's very tough for the Bills to win that game, which is why I don't trust them to win a Super Bowl. Like going back to game script and game planning, they're kind of easy to figure out how to defend. Their only saving grace is that James Cook is a phenomenal running back and Josh Allen is a generational quarterback. So Deeb, question for you. Last one here for hypotheticals. We do a lot of debating. We do some talking of shit on the podcast. Who are we apologizing to in a month? Who have we said is not good that might prove us wrong 1 month from now?
Talking about teams or players, or does it matter?
I would say either one. Either one.
Maybe the Packers. I mean, truthfully so. I mean, I'm looking at this, and we kind of talked a little trash about them earlier that, I don't know, Micah Parsons, but... Or, I mean, I don't want to say the Steelers, but I could also see the Bucks. Like the Bucks could, if they hold on and they're in that 4 seed, they could potentially be okay.
Yeah, there's plenty of options because we make these picks with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize in a month on both of our behalves, mostly because of you. My apology for this podcast is going to be to Caleb Williams, who I still do not think...
God.
I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback. I don't think he is. But the guy has a great team. He has a lot of weapons, and he's learning how to utilize them better. And he honestly, if you look at statistics when it comes to like getting at least 200 yards per game, he's like up there with like the top of the league.
Yeah.
He's not going to give you like a 400-yard game, and he might give you like a really bad game here and there, but he's going to give you a chance to win every game because of the pieces that are around him. And I think that we kind of talked about him, mostly you, as if he couldn't do that, right? Like he couldn't win even with a good supporting cast, but he's proven that he's doing that. So that's
because of Ben Johnson.
Well,
you're welcome, Bears. You're welcome that he went there from the Lions. Good luck.
Could be. All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe there will be no apology needed. If they fall apart here at the end, it's fine.
I'm not apologizing to that man. Good luck.
All right, Deeb, let's switch gears. I want to talk about, we're going to do our picks for this week, but they're not technically for this week because I want to get back into the realm of college football here. And so, first of all, the bracket's out for college football, right? So what announcement do we have as a podcast?
Well, we are setting up for the second year in a row the ESPN bracket for the college football playoff. So we will have a link in the description. We'll also post it on various social media. We'll try to shoot out some text to some personal friends and followers that we know like to participate. I think the goal that I would like, I think last year we had, what was it, like 80 people that participated in it? So
that was March Madness. I think for football we had like 20. So
yeah, you're right.
But let's hit 80. Screw it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we can get past whatever last year's number was, that would be awesome. So, if it's 20, let's get to 30 or 40. That'd be great. But if you're interested, please play. It's free. There's no payment or anything required. It's more just for fun. So tell a friend, send the link, and get your picks in before Friday.
Yeah, and there will be a non-disclosed U.S. currency reward for whoever wins. You and I will talk about that. We're recording on Tuesday. This episode will come out Thursday. On our social media posts, we'll tell you there will be an actual like monetary reward for winning the whole bracket.
Yeah.
So share it with your friends. It's free to enter. You might win some money. And make sure they follow Single Barrel Sports on all social media platforms.
Yeah, definitely.
Deeb, let's talk about these games here. I want to talk about the first round of the college football playoffs here, and then we'll both select who we think wins it all. First round, Alabama versus Oklahoma, number 9 versus 8. Bama, 1.5 point favorite. What do you got there?
Alabama gets their revenge.
Same. I think Bama wins this game. This should be a fun one here. Miami versus Texas A&M. And if I've been saying all year that I think A&M is good, but I think they're overinflated. A&M is a 3.5 point favorite playing against Miami. Who do you got there?
A&M, no question.
I'm actually going to take them too. I'm surprised Miami made it into the playoffs, although I'm happy they did, but I'm still going to take A&M. These next two games feel like a freaking joke to me, and we can do a whole episode maybe prior to the college football starts next year about the playoff format. But we have Tulane versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 17.5 point favorite. Who do you got?
I can't tell if Ole Miss is going to be in revenge mode and put up 100 on Tulane, or if this could be a nightmare situation for them. This is actually a much tougher choice because of that, because it could go one way or another. I am confident in Ole Miss to win this game and cover the spread.
Yeah, this feels like an insult to college football. I don't like the Power 5 rule that they have with the conferences. Tulane is a good team. Do not mistake this for me shitting on Tulane as a team, but this should be like Texas or BYU. Or Vanderbilt. This should be a more competitive football team. Ole Miss wins this game by more than 17.5, and everyone has to revisit this rule next year because of this. Sure. Last one, James Madison versus your team, the Oregon Ducks. This is crazy. Insane. Oregon is a 21 point favorite in a playoff bracket. What are your thoughts there?
First ever home game for Oregon, playoff game. Last year they got a bye. I'm actually thankful that they're in the number 5 spot. I like this spot for them. A lot of question marks. They have their 3 best wide receivers apparently reported to practice this week, which all have been injured. I don't know if that means they're going to play. It could be a decoy. One of their best freshmen defensive players is also apparently practicing. I have to pick James Madison because I think it could be a 20-point game instead of 21. So give me James Madison just because of the spread, but I like Oregon to win the game, of course.
I think this is some of your reverse psychology just to make sure there's no hidden pieces here. Oregon wins this game. It's going to be like a 35-0 or more game. This is an insult to college football playoffs. James Madison does not belong. We need to change this freaking rule. Make it a Power 4 conference, maybe. Power 5 is insane to me because we look at the top 12, it's made up of 3 conferences. It's crazy to include 2 conferences that don't belong. Deeb, who wins it all? Who do you think wins the entire thing? And we'll follow up on this each week. So we'll do more picks. But right now, who do you think wins the entire thing, the national championship?
Man, such a tough question. Man, I can see a lot of different scenarios, and there's so many things that I want to explore. We can probably try to do that.
Don't milk it. First impression.
I know. First impression tells me Georgia has potentially the easiest path, but I don't know that they win it.
They might have to play Ohio State.
Yeah, give me Indiana with the surprise of the year. Give me Indiana to ride Mendoza and the high of the Heisman and the crazy season that they've had and finish it out.
To quote the cornball Mendoza, you think they're going to be the flippin' champions? There's one team I've been saying since the preseason. You've already typed it in. I can see it. You're already Deeb is writing down our predictions. He knows. I've predicted one team to win the national championship all year long, and it's the Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs! Georgia on top. Let's go. SEC rules. Big Ten best conference, but not this year. SEC rules.
So I can speak it into existence. My ideal scenario is Oregon faces Indiana in a rematch, beats them, gets their revenge, gets to the final, plays Ohio State, beats their ass, somehow wins a national championship in a rebuild year, and we all celebrate at the end.
My upset. I'm going to choose my upset. The team that beats Georgia, okay? Oklahoma. Don't sleep on them.
Wow.
Don't sleep on Oklahoma.
I'm not sleeping on them, but I think Bama's out for revenge.
I just think if Oklahoma beats Bama, they could make it to the national championship, and then anything could happen.
They could. They have a good defense. They could stop Indiana, but it's yet to be
this
seen.
Might also be some reverse psychology for your boys. I'm trying to do your strategy for you.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But, hey, Indiana beat Ohio State, and that was a close-ass game, so they've shown that they can hang, or Ohio State's not as good as everyone thinks.
They are. They are as good. I think Indiana is too.
I'm just joking. I think Indiana's solid, and I knew that when they beat Oregon. I was like, fuck. Anyways.
Okay, well, you want to dive into some NFL stuff?
Yeah.
I want to be honest. There were too many really good games to pick for the NFL to pick from, so I just chose the 4 that I thought would be the most intriguing. We could have chosen 6 or 7. There's so many good NFL games. Guys, if you're a sports fan, watch all of the NFL this week. There's so many very impactful games for the playoffs that are occurring this weekend. But here are the 4 I chose. Do you want to take it deep or do you want me to?
No, go ahead. You're on a roll.
Rams are going to Seattle. Both these teams are 11-3 and they're in the same division. Rams are 1.5-point favorites. You want me to go first with my picks this time since I put you on the spot in college?
Yeah, go ahead.
Call me crazy. I'm sure people will. Give me the Seahawks. I love the Seahawks. They're at home. They got the 12th man. And I think the Rams are due for a bad game.
I picked the Seahawks because that one call was bullshit against the Lions. So the refs are going to be in the favor of the Seahawks somewhere, and they have to redeem themselves.
Different week, different ref crew, but still the same thing.
Well, somebody out there will get to them.
This next one is a really interesting one now. So I think it was only 2 weeks ago that the Bears and Packers played, but they played in Lambeau. And Ben Johnson said that he looked forward to beating LaFleur twice a year. If you remember, I don't know if you remember that, but the Packers ended up winning at home. It was a very close game, probably the best Bears-Packers game that we've had in 20 years. So now they're running it back. They're playing in Chicago. The Packers are 1.5-point favorites going to the Bears. Who do you got there?
No, you pick first.
You're right. This is the most insane pick I think I've ever made in a whole year of this podcast. Give me the Bears. I think without Micah Parsons rushing Caleb Williams, he has more time. And the biggest gap in his game is his decisiveness. So more time allows him to just rely more on physicality and less on mentality. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, Bears at home. That's really it. Just Bears at home. I think they have a home field advantage, and it was a close game last time.
Jags are visiting the Broncos, and Broncos are 3-point favorites. at Mile High. And I'm riding the Broncos, man. I've been high on them all year since before the season. I made a bet on them making the playoffs in the preseason, and they are now clinched. So nope, not falling back now. Give me Broncos.
I think the Jags sneak one here. I like the Broncos, but I don't know. Jags are sneaky, and
the Jags offense has been sneaky good in the last few years.
Broncos haven't lost in a while, so that's my only reason.
They won like 11 in a row, dude. Like, it's like insane.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, it's got to come to an end sometime.
Last one here. I don't even know what I want. This is going to be totally on the fly. Patriots are going to Baltimore playing the Ravens. Ravens are minus 3-point favorites despite being 4 fewer wins in the win column. They are the home team. Give me the Ravens. This is what I've been preaching this all week. I think the Ravens are better than their record, and I don't trust the Patriots to beat really good teams. I could see this. If this is a coin toss, it's a 50-50 to me. I don't like the -3, but gun to my head, I'm choosing the Ravens.
Yeah, I just like the Pats. I think the Ravens they're good, but the Pats are better.
Would you say the Ravens are washed if they don't do it this year?
Probably. No, not washed, but I mean, this year is a wash.
Because, like, let's just look at the Ravens. Mark Andrews is only getting older. Isaiah Likely's fine. He's no Mark Andrews. Lamar is only getting older. Derrick Henry is probably not going to be Derrick Henry next year. They do have Keaton Mitchell, who could be a quick shifty back. But it kind of feels like this is like the last chance for the Ravens to be like that team, and they're coming from behind. They're very uphill battle.
Yeah. I mean, they might find a way to revitalize. Like, I mean, when they picked up Derrick Henry a couple years ago, that was like a revitalization. So you never know, they could.
They need a big wide receiver prospect. They don't really have.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers is good, but I don't think he should be a wide receiver 1. I think he should be the second receiver on a team.
They should go out and get like a young, younger guy, one that's maybe a couple years in the league, or even somebody that's a rookie this year that's been doing well. I think that would kind of help.
George Pickens.
Yeah, that's something to reinvigorate, the ability to throw the ball.
I don't think the Cowboys can afford George Pickens and still build a team, so the Ravens should get him.
Well, I think the Ravens could also trade Lamar to the Bengals for Joe Burrow, which would be interesting.
A lot of people think Burrow might go to the Vikings and reunite with Justin Jefferson.
I can see that.
That's an off-season podcast episode, but
yeah,
good things to talk about.
Yep.
All right, well, let's jump into our 2-minute warning here. We've been having a great chat. I've enjoyed this, and let's get into the shenanigans.
Sweet.
And I'll ask the first question here. Would you rather lose a let me rephrase this. When you lose the fantasy football league, would you rather your punishment be dressing like your rival's mascot or shaving your head mid-show?
I would wear a mascot. That'd be funny. I don't want to shave my head. That sucks. It's cold. It's too cold.
Comes back fast, though.
Yeah, but it's cold. I don't mind dressing like a mascot. Would you rather be forced to play your sport with oven mitts or in clown shoes?
I think clown shoes. Hands are everything I specialize in. Like, I played quarterback in high school. Like, I'd rather be slow but be able to throw. So I'll go with that. Would you rather have Skip Bayless call you his favorite player or be used in a Jake Paul promo video?
Skip Bayless call me his favorite player because that doesn't happen very often.
Okay, fair.
I don't know. Blow a 28-3 lead or miss the buzzer beater that would have sealed your legacy?
I'm not much of a legacy guy. I think missing a buzzer beater is understandable. Blowing a 25-point lead would be hard to come back from. So let me be the guy that misses the buzzer beater. I'll take the blame. Would you rather have to call your own penalties out loud or wear an air horn around your neck the entire basketball game?
Call my own penalties. I feel like that's kind of how street ball is anyway. So
true. Yeah.
Not really much different there.
Yeah, true.
Have your nickname be Butterfingers or the human turnover?
I hate both of those, but the human turnover is a little bit more creative, I think. I'm going to give you one. We only got 1 second. I'm going to give you it anyway. Would you rather have your teammate accidentally pants you on national TV or tackle you mid-celebration after a touchdown?
Depends on how far
angle?
Well, yeah, and what pantsing are we talking? Everything or just like underwear?
Everything.
Still on?
Everything.
Well, I don't know. I could be famous for both then, but probably the tackle. I feel like that would probably go viral. I mean, probably both would, but that'd be kind of funny. Just get tackled mid celebration.
Okay. So. Well, that was our 2-minute warning. The patented. That's like the segment that can never go away. I think people love that. I hope people love that. My wife loves it. Deeb, last call is here. You want to go first? You want me to?
Yeah, I can go first. I think for me, just reflecting back, it's been a year, as we talked about, 1 year anniversary last week. We learned a lot over the past year. It's been really cool to, number one, just evolve things, change some stuff. We did a refresh in the the middle of the year, over the summer. We've adapted some stuff, had on guests, talked specials. We did golf specials, wrestling specials, all sorts of stuff. So I think it's been a really awesome learning adventure so far. And as we close out 2025, I think it'll be just more fun to look at 2026 and think through and, continue to look at like what sorts of creative things and what sorts of fun we can get into. So thank you for anyone out there who has stuck with us, who still listens, anyone new who's just joining. We appreciate you, and cheers to 1 year.
Yeah, I want to echo that. From our day ones to where we're currently at, thank you for being a part of this. It might sound silly, but it is a lot of work for two guys who have a lot already on their plates. I mean, we work busy jobs, we have families, and a lot of moving pieces. But again, made this joke earlier. This is for the love of the game. This gives us a passion. It keeps us abreast with sports news, gives us a reason to really pay attention to sports. Everything is going to keep getting better, but thank you for being here from the start. It's been a hell of a year, and we'll just keep growing. So thank you, and cheers.